Nocturne joins the top 3 for jungle, we've got Xerath slotting in for mid lane, and much more as we break down the best solo carries for every role in 26.6. And remember, our solo carry videos will always show you the most broken champions in the meta, but knowing what's broken doesn't mean you know how to abuse it, which is exactly why countless players love our live challenger commentaries. Every single week, our challenger experts upload full live games, walking you through exactly how to carry in your own ranked games, from how to win trades in lane, to making the right macro calls in the mid game, and how to dominate team fights, breaking down every key decision they make in real time to make sure you know exactly how to play every stage of the game step by step on your chosen champion. And if you still have questions, our coaches are, let's just say, compelled to answer them. And that's only the start, as we've updated our Season 16 Essentials courses for every role, breaking down how to play every stage of the game into easy to digest chapters, giving you all the tips, tricks, and strategies you need to climb this season guaranteed. As if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, then you get every penny back. So what's there to lose? Get your exclusive one-time discount by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description below and start your climb today. A new addition to the top lane solo carry list for this patch, coming off some buffs from 26.5, is Garen. So with those buffs, Garen is now an extremely powerful top lane champ for solo queue. He's currently the no-brainer pickup if you are ranked anywhere Emerald or below. What makes Garen so strong for solo queue is that he's a very stat-checky champion. What we mean by this is that if you get a lead with Garen, then because all of his damage is point and click, if the enemy tries to fight you, then you're just going to win. There's no outplaying a fed Garen in the 1v1, especially if he has flash up. So if you can learn your matchups with Garen and consistently come out of lane ahead of your opponent, he can consistently carry games better than most top laners. In regards to Garen's matchups in meta, there's one champ you're going to want to avoid, being Kayle. Kayle has historically always been a matchup that Garen struggles the most against, as he's been sitting below a 46% win rate in the matchup for all of Season 16, so just ban out Kayle if you intend on picking Garen. Camille is one other matchup that can be more annoying to go up against, but Camille isn't picked nearly as much as Kayle in meta, so we would prioritize banning out Kayle. The standard core build for Garen consists of a Stridebreaker Rush into Phantom Dancer 2nd and Spear of Shojin 3rd, while Conqueror is the optimal Keystone rune. 26.6 doesn't have any massive meta-shifting changes for top lane, so we can expect Kayle to remain a top 3 pick. If you're in the lower elos right now, then the fact Kayle and Garen are both in phenomenal spots gives you no excuse not to climb. What's great is that Kayle hard counters Garen, so if the enemy ends up taking your Garen, then you just pick Kayle and beat him. The fact Garen is now the most played top laner in the game bodes super well for Kayle, as it's always been a matchup she's excelled against. A few champs Kayle doesn't like playing into as much include Malphite and Aurelia. Malphite isn't too difficult to lane into, but once he gets items and can dive right on you, his attack speed slow is really annoying to deal with. Aurelia's mobility and early game all-in threat is what's scary for Kayle, because she really wants her XP even more than most champs to scale into her passive spikes, so if you die early on, it doesn't bode well, and therefore Aurelia is who we'd recommend you ban out. You really just need to play sound fundamentally with Kayle to succeed with her, as constantly picking up farm in the side lane and not missing out on experience so that you can get to your level 16 as quick as possible is key. The core build for Kayle revolves around a Nashor's Tooth Rush into Dusk and Dawn 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd, while Press the Attack is the Keystone rune. And for our third solo carry top laner of the patch, he's been a staple for the past few patches now, as Ornn is back once again. Ornn is actually even indirectly buffed for this patch, with the recipe for Sunfire Aegis being changed. Instead of needing 1,000 gold to complete Sunfire after you've got your Bammy Cinder and Chain Vest in your inventory, a Ruby Crystal is being added so that you can be a little bit stronger before fully completing the item. Even though Sunfire is the most popular rush item for Ornn right now, the item finding the most success as a rush is Protoplasm Harness. Protoplasm is one of the most slept on items in the entire game right now, as it has been a huge factor in why Shen Jungle was the most OP jungler last patch, and it's got by far the highest win rate as Ornn's rush item. You rush Protoplasm, go into Jaksho 2nd and Zeke's Convergence 3rd for a very cheap 3-item core. The Protoplasm with Jaksho synergy is great, because as games go later and Jaksho amps your resists in fights, you'll then get a massive heal out of Protoplasm, because the passive heal from the item scales off of bonus resists. If you can go late with Ornn, he brings so much value to his team due to being able to upgrade items, and the relative meaning of late game has kinda changed for top lane champs this season because of the fact that they get so much more experience from their quest. You can easily reach level 16 before 25 minutes if you're farming efficiently, and most games are going to last around 20 to 25 minutes at least, so you can just get so much consistent value out of Ornn in Season 16. Ornn doesn't have a matchup in meta that he's got an overly negative win rate against right now, but Fiora is the one that's always worth getting rid of, as her W and mobility from Q makes it really hard for you to threaten for kills in lane. The jungle meta has seen a bit of a shift over the past patch, and we've got a new addition to the top 3 for 26.6, being Nocturne. So Nocturne is fresh off some buffs from 26.5, and the changes have turned him into one of the highest priority picks. Whenever Nocturne is good in meta, we highly recommend him because of how easy it is to be consistently impactful on the champ. The majority of junglers don't have a super clear-cut win condition, but with Nocturne, power farming and hitting hitting 6 as soon as possible will be your game plan most of the time. Nocturne actually has a pretty solid early skirmish because of his spell shield and fear, so it's not like it can't make plays happen early on, but the key is to not force unnecessary plays. For example, if your mid lane and top lane have priority, then fighting the enemy jungler for Scuttle Crab makes sense. If neither of your lanes have priority though, be content with giving up Crab and just going back to cycling your camps on respawn. The easiest way for you to climb the fastest with Nocturne is by improving your clear speed. The average Nocturne player in low elo clears their jungle in 2 minutes and 56 seconds, while our challenger players can get that down to 2 minutes and 42 seconds, shaving off a whole 14 seconds, which is absolutely game-changing. This is exactly why we enlist the help of world record-holding junglers to teach you the quickest, most cutting-edge clears and routes for all meta junglers before they ever go viral. Every walkthrough contains detailed step-by-step breakdowns, including must-know tricks, the exact damage thresholds you need to leash camps together, and all the small details you need to shave serious time off your jungle clears. So check them out today using the special one-time discount code in the description or pinned comment below. The optimal build you should be taking on your Nocturne consists of a Stridebreaker Rush into Hexplate 2nd and Black Cleaver 3rd, while Conquer is the Keystone rune. Since Nocturne is a champion who wants to be diving the enemy backline to be most effective in fights, using your ban on a meta peel support who's going to make it much harder for you to kill your target is a good idea. So Karma or Lulu are two good options that are being picked a ton in meta. A jungler on the rise over the past 2 patches and cracking the top 3 for 26.6 is Graves. So Graves got a direct buff back in 26.4, which put him on the right track, and then the change that pushed him over the top was the Hubris buff in 26.5. Graves is loving Hubris as a rush item right now, as it's a really good snowball-y pickup for him. Ghostblade isn't bad by any means, and you can still take it if you favor the additional mobility into the enemy comp, but if you are ahead early on and want the most amount of damage to win out in games, Hubris will provide you that. The one matchup in meta right now that can be more annoying for Graves to play into is Shen. Shen is nerfed for this patch, so we might not see as much of him, but Shen in general, with his ability to block autos with his W, really limits the skirmish strength of Graves, so Shen is a good ban to consider. Other than Shen, Graves doesn't actually have any matchups where he's losing a ton against, so if you're a good Graves player, then you can make him work right now really well. And then back in the top 3 for jungle for another patch is going to be Briar. Briar has been really good ever since her direct buffs from 26.3, and there's even more incentive to pick her up for 26.6. What's so great about Briar is that she has so many viable builds, which allows her to adapt to the enemy composition incredibly well. You can play Briar like a bruiser or an assassin, which is a luxury that most champions don't have. With Hubris buffed last patch, it's a really underrated rush item on Briar if going up against a more squishy enemy comp. You can pair it up with running Hail of Blades for the Keystone rune and just one-shot any squishy target you can reach. If you're newer to Briar or are against an enemy comp who has more fighter or tank champs, then going Bruiser Briar is the way to go, as you rush Blade of the Ruined King into Black Cleaver 2nd and Death's Dance or Endless Hunger 3rd. In regards to Briar's matchup in meta, similar to Graves, she doesn't like playing into Shen. Shen's W just counters so much of Briar's damage, and if Shen holds W, then you can never be the aggressor in the matchup, so it's a good ban to consider. So a mid lane champ that has been performing incredibly well this season, but flying more under the radar, is Xerath. In terms of mage performance in solo queue, Xerath is outclassing everyone else right now, and it's not really that surprising when you factor in that many of his best matchups are in really weak spots right now. Xerath plays super well into other mid to shorter range mages, as he can easily outspace them, so picks like Orianna, Ryze, Veigar, Twisted Fate, and Anivia. Orianna and Ryze in specific are super weak for solo queue right now, but are still being played at decent rates, while Xerath wins over 55% into both of them. The Mel matchup stat line is one of the crazier ones in the game right now, with Xerath players winning 57% of the time against her. Mel just got buffed last patch too, and is seeing more play now, so you're running into that matchup a lot more often. The only matchups Xerath has a harder time against are the higher mobility assassins, so think Fizz, Katarina, or LeBlanc. Fizz is currently the most played out of the bunch, and Xerath's worst analytical matchup right now for solo queue, so he's a good ban to consider. The core build for Xerath consists of a Luden's Rush into Horizon Focus 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd, while First Strike is the best Keystone rune. Another new addition to the mid lane solo carry list for 26.6 is going to be Veigar. Veigar is one of the best mages for mid and bot lane, so if you're a Veigar player, then queuing up for mid and bot and spamming him is a great idea right now. Something that's really underrated on Veigar that we'd recommend you try on him is taking Rocket Belt for your rush item instead of Rod of Ages. Both items provide health, which is nice for Veigar as it prevents dive champs from bursting him out right away, but then the offensive aspect of Rocket Belt and the fact you get the active dash makes playmaking with Veigar so much better. Dashing forward with Rocket Belt and then getting in range to land your E is super powerful for mid game and especially strong around objectives. Even just to get in range to land your R in certain instances, the active from Rocket Belt provides way more consistent playmaking potential for Veigar, which is what you want for solo queue. Veigar's weaker matchups are going to be similar to Xerath's, as those high mobility assassins who can jump right onto him like Katarina, Fizz, or Zed are good bans to consider. Cat is the most played out of the bunch, so she's the best value ban in the current meta. And then back in the top 3 for mid lane for another patch, as one of the most consistently powerful champs you can play is Sion. So Sion mid remains pretty niche, but he continues to outperform every other mid laner and is so easy to find success with. What makes Sion mid so strong is that it's really difficult for mid lane champs to bully him out of lane early on, and then once he gets to level 6, he can begin instantly clearing waves with his W and Q, and then be a constant threat for roams. Since Sion gets the shield from W, once you're level 6 and have some resist purchased, in a lot of matchups, you can literally just walk right into the wave and clear it without even worrying about the enemy mid, because they won't deal meaningful damage to you. Constantly shoving waves and always being a threat on the map is something our challenger mid laner Shori is a huge advocate for as a very simple way to climb from mid in Season 16. You don't need to solo kill your lane opponent to win games. That's such an outdated mindset, as being the first to roam to skirmishes to help your jungler is actually how you're going to more consistently impact games. You know junglers love coin flipping games over that scuttle crab or taking dragons when their team doesn't have priority, so if you can always be the one with lane priority, you are simply going to win more games than you lose over a large enough sample size. The fact Sion builds super tanky and can still output pretty good damage makes him really forgiving as well. The Sunfire Aegis buffs this patch are nice for him, as you're either rushing Sunfire or Hollow Radiance into Titanic Hydra, or Unending Despair second, and then situationally tanky from then on out. Defensive boots upgrades are incredible for Sion too, as you get so tanky early on in the game once you complete your quest. Matchup wise for Sion, it's just champions who have stronger extended fight power who he doesn't want to play into as much, so banning out Yone is good value. A mainstay in the solo carry top 3 for ADC for Season 16 and back for another patch is Jinx. So Jinx is all around one of the most versatile ADCs you can play right now. The fact that you get access to more gold as an ADC in Season 16 due to the role quest is insane for Jinx, because there are few champs who have as much raw teamfight impact as her once she has a couple of items. All it takes is for the one kill to land in a grouped up fight and your solo carry power shoots through the roof, as Jinx passive is one of the most broken passives in the game for solo queue. A lot of players are still sleeping on the most optimal Jinx build, with Hex Optics C44 being the best rush item on Jinx for the past few patches now. You go Hex Optics into Phantom Dancer second and Infinity Edge third for a really powerful 3-item core. Hex Optics is winning about 2% more than Kraken and Yuntal as Jinx's rush item, so if you have yet to try it out, then definitely do so in 26.6. There isn't a specific ADC you have to worry about banning when picking Jinx, so using your ban on a meta dive champ like Zed or Akali is good value. So one of the more underrated ADCs that we really like right now because of her meta build is Senna. Senna ADC has gained a lot of relative power over the past few patches because players have started running a core of Static Shiv into Dusk and Dawn, while Press the Attack is the Keystone rune. You get a ton of upfront burst potential with this build because everything synergizes so well with each other. Dusk and Dawn will allow you to consume 2 Shiv charges and stack 2 procs of PTA when you use Senna Q, so all you gotta do is use a Q into auto combo to fully consume all 3 Shiv's charges and fully proc Press the Attack. So it's just a really effective quick burst trading pattern with Senna that makes her very easy to pilot in the mid game. You actually end up getting quite durable with the 3-item core as well, because you're going Black Cleaver third, so the health from Dusk and Dawn and Black Cleaver is super nice on Senna since she's usually a very squishy and vulnerable champ, so those items make her a lot more forgiving for the average player. Even with the build though, because of Senna's lack of mobility, she still hates playing into heavy dive champs, so banning out a meta diver like Zed or Akali is a good idea. And at ADC you should highly consider adding to your champion pool, who's still pretty underrated in meta, is Xayah. So Xayah just got those buffs back in 26.4 and she's been finding way more success, but her play rate is still relatively low. Xayah is just such a good champion to be able to pull out for solo queue because she can play better than most ADCs into heavy dive comps. Both Senna and Jinx hate heavy divers because they lack a gap close, but Xayah can fend off against them really well because of her R. Xayah R, followed up by her root from E, is such a powerful set of tools to completely counter divers from being able to function in team fights. You don't even need to play Xayah with a Rakan either, as the duo is great, but Xayah literally wins more with champs like Thresh, Nami, Nautilus, and Karma, so by no means are you bootstrapped into only picking Xayah with Rakan. Xayah is a bit shorter range, so early laning can be more difficult into pokey range champs, which makes allocating your ban towards someone like Caitlyn or Karma really good value. You can either rush Essence Reaver or Yuntal on Xayah. ER is generally more consistent because the build path is a lot more efficient, but if you do get an early base timer where you have 1300 gold and can pick up a BF sword, then go towards Yuntal. Also, if you're paired with an enchanter support and are in a matchup where it's more of a stalemate early on, where you don't think you'll be able to threaten for kills in the immediate future, then you can also just hold out for Yuntal even if you don't have the gold for a BF sword on your first base. Joining the top 3 for support this patch is going to be one of the most slept on enchanters for the current meta, being Janna. So Janna currently has a top 5 win rate in the role, and when you consider why this is, you just have to take a look at who the most popular champions are in other roles. Janna absolutely loves playing into melee heavy comps because the peel power from her kit completely counters what melee champs want to do in teamfights. Right now, 9 of the 10 most played junglers in meta are all melee. For top lane, the 10 most played entirely consist of melee champs. Even for mid lane, where the entire role consists of having more ranged characters than melee, 6 of the 10 most played are still melee. So it's very likely that in 26.6, you are loading into a game where there are 2 or 3 melee champs on the enemy team, which boosts the relative power of Janna. Because of her insane peel strength, Janna pairs really well with ADCs who lack gap closers, and with Jinx being picked a ton in meta, it's a really strong duo you can play right now. The standard core build for Janna is going to consist of a Moonstone Rush into Redemption second, while Dreammaker is the item upgrade, and then you're grabbing Airy for the Keystone Rune. It's just instant catch power that Janna is going to struggle more against, so banning out Blitzcrank is good value. Continuing to absolutely dominate the support meta for solo queue and in the top 3 yet again is Nami. The stat lines for Nami over the past few patches are just insane, with the champ being the most played while also holding the highest win rate. Ahri was in a similar spot for mid lane over the past few patches, and she finally got nerfed this patch, so if Nami doesn't get some sort of change in the coming patches, we'd be pretty shocked. To be fair though, Nami has been a top tier support for a very long time, so maybe Riot's just content with leaving her as a top 3 support forever. What's so great about Nami is that she can be effective at all stages of the game. Early trading power is incredible because of her W, as it's one of the best level 1 trading tools in the game. The fact that you can deal damage with it while also healing means you should be able to get an early health advantage in a lot of matchups, especially if you take bone plating and runes. Trading at level 1 is super winning for Nami. When the enemy ADC walks up to last hit, you just use your W on them, and if they try to trade back, you got your bone plating, so you're taking very minimal damage in return. Spamming W constantly in lane will drop you low on mana pretty quick, so a good rule of thumb is to try and use Nami W whenever Mana Flow Band proc is available to get that stacking as fast as possible. Once you get to your Imperial Mandate spike, that's when the damage becomes pretty absurd, as you throw your E on your ADC and watch them take a huge chunk of the enemy's health bar with their next 3 autos. And then come team fights, Nami can do a bit of everything, as she can engage or disengage with R, so there's a lot of versatility and you can adapt super well to the state of each game. Worst matchups for Nami are going to be against support with instant catch and burst power, so banning out Blitzcrank is a good idea. And then to round out the top 3 for 26.6 is going to be Braum. So even though Braum has been nerfed a few times this season, he remains in a powerful spot, and we really like him for similar reasons to Janna right now. Braum is a champion who dominates when playing with and against melee champs. The more melee champs in a game, the more effective Braum is going to be, and like we touched on when covering Janna, the entire meta for top and jungle is made up of melees in 26.6. Trying to play a melee champ into a good Braum player can be so tilting because you can never really be the aggressor in a fight. If Braum is sitting there, then you know that if you go in, you're just going to get stunned, so Braum does a phenomenal job at limiting the threat of melee champs during skirmishes. For your build when playing Braum, it's going to be Bandle Pipes as your rush item in every game, as it's winning about 2% more than Locket, and for good reason. The attack speed you get from Bandle Pipes has incredible synergy with Braum because it allows him and his carries to get his passive procs off faster. So go into Locket as your second purchase and take Solstice Slay for the item upgrade. Matchup wise for Braum, he doesn't want to play into double range, so banning out a meta enchanter support like Nami or Karma is good value. If you have Braum as your counter pick that you pull out in melee support matchups, and then Janna or Nami as your blind pick, that's really all you need for 26.6. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to be all for this one, as those are 3 of the best champions for every role as we head into 26.6. Thank you all so much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you back soon.